What are the elements of ecstasy?
The elements of ecstasy are the elements of ecstasy. It's so it's such a love affair for me because they really they really came to me by me studying body work and studying several schools of massage. And then one massage teacher, he portrayed different qualities of touch or different frequencies or different intentions in touch. He portrayed them with the four natural elements: earth, water, fire, and air. And I was so fascinated by how deeply the mm, the metrics or the information, the frequency of those elements spoke to me and started like flowing through my hands and started a very unique conversation with the body that I was touching. And I was at that time, I was living in Berlin, so I wasn't that close to nature. And still, my body knew exactly how to tap into the frequency of this element, and it made perfect sense. And then I was like, for my whole, I would have said my whole life, let's say my whole adult life, I have been also working with sexuality, and I've been in so many settings of doing so much research around it, being so curious. And I've also always been working with clients who came with so-called sexual problems or issues to me. And after a while, it was very clear, okay, if those four elements of nature have such an impact in changing how I touch somebody, what somebody is experiencing through my hands, then why not transferring this principle to sex and see what happens? And it made from the very first moment so much sense to me that, ah, wow, okay, if sex is as individual as there are individuals out there, if sex is the most creative, the least repetitive force that we have in the universe, because it's abundantly creative time after time after time, then how does it come that we are kind of satisfied with one word? Like us calling it sex or sexuality, it completely doesn't make sense. Because, for example, the two of us talking about sex, you hear sex and you have your whole cloud of association and experience. I think, because you are nodding, that the both of us are on the same page, but we are just poor in our language. We do not have a spectrum in our expressions that can truly get across where we are coming from, what we are experiencing when we are tuning into sex as a frequency. So, how about us being curious about sex in terms of it's highly individual? Because my sex, for example, has a lot of this frequency of air, and it doesn't have so much of the frequency of earth. And then you are like, oh my God, that's fascinating. I feel super close to fire, by the way, and a little bit of water, but not so much air, a little bit of earth. So that is how we can use something like water sex, air sex, earth sex, fire sex. We can start using a more differentiated terminology when it comes to sex in order to truly do justice to our individuality. And that's not just, it's not like nice to have something individually that fits to my sexuality, but this is the basic ingredient for feeling sexually safe and sexually okay. So this is the most important ingredient when it comes to sexual ecstasy, is that you are deeply okay and that you always have been deeply okay. So it's not, let's say, a hobby of being polite or of being modern or something. It's super essential. It's an existential part of sexual self-love, that you have a language, that there are terms given to you that you can use in order to fully live up to how your nervous system is wired, what your nervous system needs, what is speaking to you in terms of pace, in terms of touch, in terms of thinking about sex. So the more we take serious that those four elements of nature are reflecting or are reflected in every area of our life, in every move of our nervous system, in every decision in our life, the more we can also adapt it to sexuality. And then it's like instant sexual self-love starts like coming up in us, because for the very first time we are not stressed out subconsciously by definitions about sex that do not do us justice. It's really like my language is not no longer standing in the way. It opens the door and I'm seeing myself and I'm like, oh my God, I'm perfect. And this innocence and this ease and this relaxation, this sense of safety when it comes to sex, it truly, as a body worker, I would have always assumed relaxation, safety, self-love, it all has to come from body work. Yes and no, it has to come from shifts in the nervous system. And regarding sex, I have highly underestimated how much stress is stuck in our nervous system only because our mind, our language is inappropriate. It's just completely old school and completely, it's way too one-dimensional for the complexity that we are, especially when it comes to ecstaticness and like our matrix of aliveness. So it's almost like a magic wand, because you just adapt a more you adapt a breathing terminology, a live language when it comes to sex, and it immediately washes away even decades of sexual self-doubt or insecurity.
Thank you for checking out this video. Honestly, this is just the beginning, because my work is about transferring individual healing tools to the collective nervous system. And if you're curious about those events, I host free, totally free online events once a month approximately, and you are very welcome to join us. You are very welcome to feed the collective process by adding your individual power, your individual time, your individual resources to it. If you are curious, check out the link below this video, and thank you for your generosity contributing to this global process.